The automatic doors at Green Mart Groceries slid open with a tired hiss as another wave of customers poured in. It was a Saturday afternoon, loud, chaotic, and thick with the scent of detergent and fried chicken from the deli. Behind the checkout counter stood Maria Johnson, a middle-aged woman with warm brown eyes and the kind of smile that made even the crankiest customer soften. She'd worked at Green Mart for almost 15 years, always patient, always steady, but not everyone appreciated her kindness. At Register 4, a group of teenagers was unloading snacks, chips, sodas, and a few energy drinks. Among them was Ethan Miller, 17, confident in the careless way only a rich suburban kid could be. Designer hoodie, new sneakers, phone in hand. His friends laughed loudly as he scrolled through his messages. Maria started scanning the items, her movements methodical. "Good afternoon, sweetheart," she said kindly. "Did you find everything okay?" Ethan smirked without looking up. "Yeah, sure. It's not exactly a luxury store." His friends chuckled. Maria smiled politely, choosing not to respond. She'd heard worse. She kept scanning, the beeps steady and rhythmic. "Dude," Ethan whispered to his friend, just loud enough for her to hear, "can you imagine working here your whole life? Must be rough." Maria's hands hesitated for the briefest second, but she didn't look up. "That'll be $27.84, she said softly. Ethan tossed a 20 and a 10 on the counter like it was an inconvenience. "Keep the change," he said mockingly. "Thank you," Maria replied gently. "You have a blessed day." Her tone was sincere, not sarcastic, and for a split second Ethan felt something like guilt, but his pride drowned it out. "Yeah, you too, ma'am," he said with a smirk, pocketing his phone. As they walked out, his friend nudged him. "Man, you're savage." "Come on," Ethan laughed. "It's not my fault she chose to work here." But deep down, he felt something off, a quiet discomfort he couldn't explain. Later that evening, as Maria clocked out, she caught a glimpse of the teens laughing in the parking lot. They were standing next to a sleek car, blasting music, carefree and loud. She smiled faintly, shaking her head. She'd seen kids like that before, full of noise, unaware of how fragile that confidence was. What Ethan didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that this grocery clerk had already changed his life once before. Years ago, long before he could even drive, Maria Johnson had quietly donated to a community scholarship fund in honor of her late husband. She never met the kids who benefited from it. She just believed in giving others a chance. And one of those scholarships had gone to a boy named Ethan Miller, the same boy who had mocked her that afternoon, and soon life would make sure he learned the truth. The next week at Ridgeway High School, the halls buzzed with energy. College acceptance letters were coming in, and seniors strutted through the corridors with a mix of excitement and fear. Ethan Miller sat with his friends in the cafeteria, flipping through his mail on his phone. "Dude, did you get anything yet?" his best friend Kyle asked, munching on chips. Ethan grinned. "Yeah, State University. Full ride." "Full ride?" Kyle whistled. "Man, your parents must be thrilled. You're set for life." Ethan laughed, but the truth was, his parents hadn't said much. The scholarship had been a surprise to all of them. His mum had cried when she saw the letter. "I don't know how this happened, honey," she said, "but someone must be watching over you." At the time, he hadn't thought twice about it. Free tuition was free tuition. A few days later, he was volunteering, reluctantly, at the Community Scholarship Foundation Gala, a school requirement for seniors. He'd signed up to help serve refreshments and hand out programs. The event was being held in a modest community hall downtown, elegant enough to feel special, but humble in its purpose. He was setting up water bottles when he overheard a woman's voice behind him. "Excuse me, young man. Do you know where I can find the coordinator?" He turned around and froze. It was her, the grocery clerk. Maria Johnson stood there in a simple navy dress, her hair neatly pulled back, her kind eyes exactly the same. For a second, Ethan forgot how to speak. Mrs. I mean, you're... She smiled politely. You work at Greenmart, right? Register 4, he blurted before realizing how stupid that sounded. Maria chuckled softly. Other way around, dear. You were the customer. He flushed. Right. Sorry, I just didn't expect to see you here. I could say the same, she said kindly. You're volunteering for the gala? Yeah, just for school credit, he muttered. Maria tilted her head, amused. Well, even school credit can lead to something meaningful. Before Ethan could respond, the event organizer called out, Mrs. Johnson, we're ready for you. He blinked. Mrs. Johnson? Maria smiled. Duty calls. She gave him a small nod before walking toward the stage. Ethan watched her go, confused. What was a grocery clerk doing as a guest speaker at a scholarship gala? As the event began, the coordinator stepped up to the microphone. Every year, we honor one of our most generous donors, someone who quietly funds opportunities for students who might otherwise never make it to college. Tonight, we're proud to recognize Mrs. Maria Johnson, whose kindness and dedication have changed countless lives. The room erupted in applause. Ethan's hands went numb. He stared as Maria walked up to the stage, humble and graceful, accepting the small plaque. Thank you, she said into the microphone. I'm not a rich woman. I work long hours, and sometimes I don't have much left over. But I lost my husband young, and he always believed education was the way out of struggle. So I started giving a little, not for recognition, but for hope. And now, seeing what these students have achieved, I know it was worth every penny. Her voice trembled slightly. Because when you help someone, you don't just change their life, you change your own. The crowd rose to its feet. Ethan couldn't move. His heart pounded in his chest, his mind spinning. Maria Johnson, scholarship donor. He pulled up the letter from State University on his phone and read the line he'd never paid attention to before, awarded through the Johnson Community Scholars Fund. The room blurred around him. He sat frozen in his chair, unable to breathe. The woman he'd mocked for working behind a grocery counter had paid for his college, and she didn't even know. Not yet. When the applause faded and people began to mingle, Ethan Miller stayed seated, frozen in place. The words Johnson Community Scholars Fund kept flashing in his mind like a siren. It was impossible. It had to be, but every detail fit. Her name, her story, her voice. The same woman he'd laughed at in a grocery store line, the one he'd treated like she was invisible, had been the reason he was going to college. He felt sick. He watched as Maria stepped down from the stage, shaking hands with a few guests, smiling warmly. There was nothing boastful about her, just quiet dignity, like she was uncomfortable even being recognized. When she turned toward the refreshment table, he stood up abruptly, heart hammering. Mrs. Johnson, he said, his voice catching. She turned, surprised. Oh, Ethan, right? From Greenmart? He nodded quickly. Yeah, that's me. He hesitated, words piling up in his throat. I didn't know you were part of this. The scholarship. Maria smiled gently. Oh, that? She waved a hand modestly. It's just something I do in my husband's memory. Nothing grand. He swallowed hard. It's not nothing. She tilted her head, studying him. You seem troubled. He let out a shaky laugh. That's one way to put it. He took a deep breath. Mrs. Johnson, I owe you an apology. Her brow furrowed. For what, dear? He looked down, shame flooding his voice. For the way I talked to you at the store. I was rude, disrespectful. I thought I was being funny, but really I was just being awful. Maria was silent for a long moment. Then she smiled, that same calm, forgiving smile she always wore. It's all right. Teenagers have sharp edges. The world will smooth them out eventually. He shook his head. No, it's not all right. I shouldn't have looked down on you, especially not you. He hesitated, then added quietly, You don't know this, but the scholarship that's paying for my college, it's yours. The Johnson Community Fund. For the first time, Maria looked genuinely stunned. Her lips parted slightly. You're one of my scholarship students? Ethan nodded, eyes wet. Yes, I never even realized until tonight. You gave me a future, and I treated you like you didn't matter. Maria's expression softened completely. She reached out and placed a hand over his. Oh, sweetheart, she said quietly, that's not how I remember it. He blinked, confused. What? I remember a boy who smiled, even if it was a little cocky, and a boy who's now standing here trying to make things right. That's what matters. He couldn't hold it in anymore. Why would you do this for people you don't even know? Her eyes glistened. Because I know what it feels like to be overlooked, to have people assume your worth by what you do instead of who you are. When you help someone like that, you remind them, and yourself, that kindness still exists. Ethan's voice cracked. You're the reason I even get to go to college. You changed everything for me, and I made fun of you. Maria smiled softly. And now you're learning something college can't teach. Humility. He laughed weakly through the tears. Guess I deserved that. No, she said, shaking her head gently. You deserved a chance to grow. We all do. Later that evening, as the gala ended, Ethan offered to walk Maria to her car. The parking lot was quiet, the air cool and still. You know, she said as they walked, my husband always told me, when you give, don't expect thanks, just hope it multiplies. Looks like it did. Ethan looked at her, eyes full of gratitude. I don't know how to repay you, she smiled. Live your life in a way that helps someone else someday. That'll be enough. He nodded, and for the first time in his life, he truly understood what that meant. That night, when he got home, Ethan sat at his desk and opened his laptop. He started typing an email to the Scholarship Foundation. Dear Committee, I'd like to volunteer at every Johnson Fund event from now on. I want to give back, the way someone once gave to me. He paused before hitting send, whispering softly into the quiet room. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. He didn't need a reply. The lesson was already written in his heart. That sometimes the people we underestimate the most are the very ones holding open the doors to our future. The following week, Ethan Miller couldn't stop thinking about Maria Johnson. Her face, her voice, her quiet dignity, it stayed with him. Every time he passed the grocery store, he slowed down. Every time he thought about college, he saw her smile. He'd been given more than just a scholarship. He'd been given a second chance to become someone better, so he kept his promise. On Saturday morning, he showed up at Greenmart wearing a volunteer badge from the Johnson Community Scholars Fund. When he walked through the sliding doors, the familiar scent of detergent and warm bread filled the air, just like the day he'd mocked her. But this time, his heart felt different. Maria was behind the counter, scanning groceries and chatting warmly with an older customer. When she looked up and saw Ethan, surprise flickered in her eyes. Ethan, she said with a smile, back for groceries already? He shook his head. Actually, I was hoping I could talk to you after your shift. I want to help. Help? He nodded. With the scholarship fund, events, donations, anything. I owe you that much. Maria blinked, touched. You don't owe me anything, dear. Maybe not, he said, but I want to do something. You believed in people like me before we even earned it. I want to be that for someone else. Maria's smile widened, a soft pride in her eyes. Well then, she said, I guess I can't turn down an extra pair of hands. By the next month, Ethan was volunteering every weekend, helping at fundraisers, sorting applications, even delivering care packages to new scholarship recipients. The work was simple but meaningful, and every time he saw a student's face light up when they received the news, he felt the same gratitude he'd felt that night at the gala. One afternoon, while sorting through scholarship essays, Maria sat beside him at the small community center table. You see that girl's essay? She asked, pointing to one file. Single mum, part-time job, wants to study nursing. Ethan nodded. She sounds like you. Maria chuckled. Maybe she reminds me of why I started this. Back then, people told me I couldn't make a difference without money or status. But kindness doesn't cost anything. It's just about showing up. He smiled softly. Guess I learned that the hard way. Maria gave him a look of fond amusement. Sometimes the best lessons hurt a little. That's how they stick. A few weeks later, Maria's name appeared in the local paper. Grocery clerk funds 100 scholarships over a decade. Quiet hero behind the Johnson Scholars Fund. The article went viral. Everyone at Green Mart recognized her from the photo. Maria standing in her uniform, holding a bouquet of flowers and smiling humbly. The store threw her a small celebration, co-workers cheering as she laughed, embarrassed by the attention. Ethan was there too, helping organize the party. When it quieted down, he stood beside her and said softly, "You know, when I first met you, I thought you were just another face behind a counter." She smiled knowingly. "And now?" "Now I realize you're the reason I even have a future. You changed everything." Maria's eyes warmed. "No, Ethan, you did. I just planted a seed. You're the one who made it grow." He smiled, blinking back emotion. "Still, thank you for not giving up on people like me." She looked at him with the same steady kindness she always carried. That's the thing about kindness, Ethan. It never gives up. Even when people don't see it yet. That evening, as they closed the store together, Maria locked the door and looked out at the sunset through the glass. "You know," she said, "my husband always wanted me to see one of our students succeed. I think he'd be proud of you." Ethan's voice caught. "And I'll make sure he always has more to be proud of." She smiled and patted his shoulder. That's all any teacher or clerk could ask for. By summer, Ethan's story was being shared at schools and community centres. The boy who mocked a grocery clerk only to discover she'd paid for his education. But he didn't mind. If it meant more people learned from his mistake, it was worth every word. He'd started a small mentorship group for teens, working alongside Maria to help others find scholarships, part-time jobs, and direction. Sometimes people would still give Maria that same dismissive look he once had, but Ethan noticed now and always made sure to smile at them, just like she had smiled at him, because he finally understood that her strength didn't come from wealth or power. It came from something far rarer, grace. And for Ethan Miller, that grace had turned humiliation into humility, shame into gratitude, and a single act of kindness into a lifetime of purpose.